What happened to the smartest kid in your class? Got a full ride to Harvard. Did an internship his first summer at Intel and was killed by a drunk driver a few weeks after arriving in California. Couldn't believe it when it happened 25 years ago. Still can't really. I was playing a game on Discord one night and this guy my friend and I hadn't talked to in years was killed that night. One of the dudes on the Discord was still close with him. It was fucking awful. He was absolutely mutilated, nicest, most intelligent guy murdered by a drunk driver. We were literally making jokes about us hanging out the night before and how we hadn't heard from him in a long time. Back then, I was ignorant and would drive if I felt fine, but that was such a horrible thing and I feel like a piece of shit nowadays that it had to really resonate with me to understand. Someone taking the life of anyone that hasn't had a chance to live it for literally no reason whatsoever. Taking a life period. But it hit way harder knowing the guy and who he was. I believe he works for NASA. He deleted his Facebook a while ago, like the smartest kid in our class would do, but that's what he was doing last I checked. I have no idea if she was the smartest in her class, but I knew someone that was an astrophysicist at NASA. She got laid off when they closed the space shuttle program and became a cashier at Panera. That's wild. Do you know if she tried to switch departments or anything? That seems like big career difference. I have no idea. I didn't want to ask. I just assumed it was hard to get that type of job in Florida at the time. The father of a friend of mine also got laid off as a physicist from a huge aerospace company and could only find a job as a bookkeeper. He got sick with a rare stomach disease and isn't doing too good. A guy I got hired with as a chemical engineer seems really intelligent and just went off work around 5 to 6 months ago with a rare stomach disease. Wonder if it's the same person. The smartest kid in my school was really popular and was one of my closest friends, but when he graduated he left everyone and everything behind including his family. He even changed his name. I found out this little bit of information because a friend went to an academic conference and showed me a group photo and he was in it. I exclaimed, "That's my friend Pascal." He kept his first name but his last name was an anagram of his original name. So you changed your name to Pascal Lipbucker? You didn't like your old last name? Bottlicker. Our prices have never been lower. After never having even smoked a cigarette or drank alcohol in high school, straight as all the way through, he got a full ride to a really good university. As a freshman he dropped acid, walked out in front of a car and was killed. Sort of reminds me of a college friend. He was straight edge, no drugs, alcohol, I think he even stayed away from caffeine. Said addiction ran in his family so it made sense. Decided though that immediately after graduation he wanted a huge party and had his first alcohol. Got insanely trashed but survived for about 20 years. He died of liver failure due to severe alcoholism at the age of 41. I hate that I remember where he was where it started, but what did we know? I found out years ago that I had one of the lowest cholesterol levels ever measured. Great, except that the doctor warned that I could easily become addicted to alcohol, something shared with Native Americans, of which I share blood. Never a drinker, smoker, or coffee/caffeine user, ever, even before the news. She worked at Johns Hopkins doing research with psilocybin. I too know a few people who got really into studying psilocybin after high school. I majored in applied recreational neuropharmacology myself. That was me. Dux, or valedictorian, of my high school. Voted brainiest by my peers for the school yearbook. Highest university entrance grades of my school. Quintessential nerd. I went into chemical engineering because that was the degree brainy kids did. I was okay at the job, but never great. Bounced around across 5 different manufacturing companies, mostly in entry-level positions or close to it. Has some mild successes, got a few promotions. Got made redundant a lot. Finally secured a management position after 10 years, and realized I absolutely hated every aspect of the job. Did a lot of soul searching. It really was a massive shock to my system that I had failed at something that was meant to be for the smart people. Took a lot for me to redefine my identity without smart being at the heart of it. These days I teach chemistry at the local high school. I absolutely love it. Kind of regret that I turned my nose up for years because I was too smart to be a teacher, but I can't change the past, so all that's left to do is learn from it. The smartest one I knew ended up drowning, tragically, right after we graduated. I wish I could have seen him make an impact on the world. I knew a guy like that too. His twin brother has been devastated since. So sad. That's weird. Some years ago we had 2 twin teens get in a terrible car accident speeding and the one died. The other was a mess and then faced charges. It was just awful and I wonder how he's doing now. Sadly, I also lost a friend who was an identical twin. He was a Marine, his brother was an undefeated UFC fighter. He lost his very first professional fight a few months after his brother died and never fought again. These were guys that would literally get into fist fights in their front yard for the fun of it. Fighting was their thing. I'll never forget Logan being home for Lance's first actual UFC contracted fight. He won by knockout. He nailed this dude in the side of his face with his foot and knocked him out cold. His late twin literally climbed the cage. He was so excited. Lance Benoist is this fighter's name if anyone is interested. He also has an interview on there he gave before his final fight where he talks about losing his brother. Gut-wrenching. Dropped out of college to marry and support the much younger woman he got pregnant. Now, 30 years later, owns a board game store with a large backroom for mini painting and games and plays dad to half the neurodivergent kids in town. Still married to the same woman too. It's not a high-flying life, but he makes a difference to so many people. Edit. Wow, this blew up. To make y'all feel better, he was 23 I think and she was 18, a big age gap when you're young. It was also in the Netherlands, where at least at the time, I've been gone a while, we didn't really care so much as long as it wasn't a 10-year difference or one of them was under 15. Teenagers have sex drives, it happens. Had a full ride through Berkeley, ended up experimenting a lot with hallucinogens, started to believe he was a star child or starseed and was from another planet, ended up starving himself in a national park to die with the Earth so he could meet other star children. Fucking miss and love you, buddy. Edit. It has come to my attention there is a Berkeley and a Berkeley. He was the smartest kid, not me lol. So I'm updating this to add the correct college. When I was in middle school, we had a super smart kid join later on in the semester that was always teased because he was above everyone else mentally. I think in 8th grade he was doing 10th or 11th grade mathematics. Any test that he took he passed with flying colors, hardly even studying. He befriended me. I was kinda quiet in middle school because of stuff going on at home. His mom always made me an extra sandwich whenever she made his lunch. I lost contact after graduation, but a few years later when I was a sophomore in college I decided to look him up on Facebook and couldn't believe what I saw. There was my friend the Brainiac smoking salvia out of a huge bong as his profile picture. I think he had to take it down because when I looked him up again he had pics of him drinking out of a funnel. I can't speak for anyone else, but I was in a similar position in HS and experimented with just about everything out there, including the madness that is salvia. 500K in scholarships and I didn't take a single one. Probably was known, and will always be known, as a drug addict to most that I went to school with. Now a VP of a global company, living thousands of miles away from home, and more successful than I would have ever dreamed possible. My 20s were rough, but I'd bet a lot of the younger cohort here end up better than you'd think. He was an idealist, became a priest and served in the Vatican, became disillusioned and left the church, got 2 master's degrees, and died by his own hand. He was a truly good person who couldn't marry his ideals with the reality of the church. She got a PhD in neuroscience from Stanford and I think she's a professor or associate professor somewhere now. She was possibly the sweetest girl I'd ever met. I was an intelligent underachiever and ended up in a few AP courses with her because our teachers saw my test scores and refused to continue to let me do dipshit things with my dipshit friends. She was always super proud of me when I actually showed up and put some effort in and, lo and behold, got excellent marks. Honestly, she really turned around the last 2 years of HS for me. Also, she's wicked hot now. A hot genius. You forgot the part about how she is your wife. Went to college for mathematics as one of the most promising young minds in the Midwest. Was in college for a year before switching to study Spanish. Dropped out a year later. Currently works at GameStop 20 minutes from his parents' house, where he lives. He was a good friend of mine, but I recently learned that he considered me his best friend. It's such a shame that his intelligence is going to waste. He is literally so smart and has such a talent for math, but he seems content with his life. Who am I to judge? As long as he's happy, hell, as long as he's alive, it's not a waste. People with intelligence aren't obligated to go off and be rocket scientists or millionaires or else be considered a waste, you know? Working at a GameStop is perfectly respectable, for him or anyone else. I know you likely didn't mean that unkindly, but I feel obligated to say this for all the people out there who feel afraid that what they do is considered a waste. They hear it, and fear it, too often. Do you have any stories about the smartest kids in school and what happened to them now? Share in the comments.